What is it like to be a therapist during this time? You feel like people are extra angsty? I mean, anxious, not angsty.
Angsty, yes, they are extra
They're
angsty.
so angsty.
I do see angsty teens.
Extra anxious during this time, or what do you feel like it's like?
So I do feel like people are extra anxious, but not necessarily about the pandemic, but more just about wanting life to get back to normal.
It's understandable.
So I think what I see a lot is like hidden grief is what I kind of think of it as, because people don't really recognize that it's grief. But just like the loss of weddings and graduations and parties and
Totally get that.
vacations, seeing friends, being able to hug friends and family, and even like going out to eat, getting your nails done, getting haircuts, like all the stuff that used to doing
Can't do.
is like now kind of weird. And even going to the grocery store, you're like wearing a mask and stay apart, and they got the lanes marked and whatever.
Yeah.
And you're kind of freaked out by that one person not wearing a mask. And so it does cause a lot of anxiety, just like about normal everyday stuff. Really see a lot of people worried about getting sick so much. I have seen some grief for people that have known people that have died from COVID. So starting to see some of that, which is very sad. But as far as being a therapist in this time, it is tough because I'm in the situation too.
Yeah.
So normally when I'm seeing somebody that's depressed or anxious, I've done my own work, I've been in therapy, so I'm kind of in a stronger place, or that place where I can be that strong foundation for them. But in this situation, so unusual that I'm having the same worries that they are.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
So it's like extra tough for me to work on my own mental health outside of counseling and then have to sit in that all day long.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say is different about doing it during a pandemic. And I'm back in the office right now because a lot of my clients don't really love the online therapy stuff.
Yeah.
I did that for a while from like March until May. Then we decided to open up in the office. So I've been back in the office since beginning of, or not beginning of May, but like middle of May. Socially distanced with masks, but still seeing people face to face.
Well, I know both had to kind of grieve. I mean, grieve kind of seems like a strong word, but
No, but that's what it is it's just the loss of
Yeah.
something that was expected or exciting,
Yeah.
or
well, we both
that you felt like would be there in your life.
Yeah, we both kind of had to grieve. We had planned a trip. We had planned it for about a year, saved for about a year to plan a big trip to Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands, and obviously everything happened and we had to cancel it. I mean, there's a lot worse things that could have happened to us, but it was definitely a bummer because we were so excited about it and we'd been planning it and literally saving for it for over a year. So that was kind of a bummer, but in the scheme of things, we're thankful we're healthy, thankful that we didn't have to push back a wedding or something like that. Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine. We had 3 cousins get married recently. One of my cousins was going to get married in Savannah. I had another cousin that was getting married in where was she getting married?
Who? Charleston?
Charleston. And then Chris's cousin was getting married in Buffalo, New York, and kind of a bummer because I know at least for both of my cousins, my one cousin in Savannah, he ended up doing like a tiny wedding. My other cousin, her and her wife ended up just eloping, and then is planning to have like a party another time. And then Chris's cousin in Buffalo did end up having a wedding, but we were unable to attend because they live in New York and you had to quarantine for 2 weeks. Certain states had to quarantine for 2 weeks to be in the state, and Georgia was one of them. So we ended up not being able to go, which was kind of a bummer. So I'm thankful that we don't have to do, I mean, horrible, but like I'm thankful that it didn't happen to us. But I hate it so much for all of them because I know for us, like that was a big deal. I mean, we planned our wedding for a year over a year. And it was a big, big deal. And I can't imagine the devastation I would have felt and you would have felt if we had to postpone it or cancel it altogether. That would have sucked. What would we have done? What do you think we would have done? Do you think we would have eloped?
Yeah,
We would have done something like that.
And then just
And then had like a
celebration.
wedding later. Yeah, I agree.
I'm calling it.
But yeah, that kind of what you were just explaining about people like grieving stuff, but feeling kind of guilty that they're in that kind of privileged position of like, oh, the only thing I lost was my trip to Europe, or this big fancy wedding that I was planning, or I can't go out to the movie theater, I can't go out and see my friends.
Yeah.
There's like a guilt that comes with that because so many people are unemployed and so many people have lost family members or lost friends or lost people that they know to the virus. It's like, oh, I don't feel right grieving this, but then the loss is still there. So it's like you're kind of trying to wrestle with both of it, like that guilt of I shouldn't even feel bad. Why do I feel bad?
Yeah.
But then still having to be like, well, crap, I do feel bad. There's no way to get around it. So I see a lot of that in my office, like the people that are privileged enough and recognize that to be able to afford therapy or come in for therapy, but then like they don't feel like their complaints are strong enough, but the effects it's having.
Yeah.
What
So
you would see in
would
typical
you
anxiety
tell
or grief.
somebody that was going through that or feeling that right now?
Just to validate their feelings that whatever they are feeling is totally normal, because this is a situation that the world has not been in for over 100 years, and we don't really know much. The world was much different in 1918 with the Spanish flu pandemic. That the things that people are grieving now are just different than what was lost and grieved then. Not that people didn't feel those things, but
it was just a
we
different
don't really have anything to
situation.
compare this to on this scale.
Yeah.
So losing things that were major and had that significance in your life is still a loss, and it's not maybe a permanent loss that eventually hopefully the world will reopen safely and trips to Europe can resume and weddings can resume and on, but there's still a big loss that's felt. And there's that uncertainty too, so that typical, what you think of as typical grief with somebody dying is like that uncertainty of, well, now this person isn't here, so what comes next?
Yeah.
Like there's no real predictability or certainty, when before you're like, oh yeah, grandma was always there and we go to her house for Thanksgiving every year or whatever. Like, well, now what are we gonna do for Thanksgiving? It's that same kind of feeling that
So weird.
now we can't do this, or what's next?
And I didn't even think about the holidays. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
And that's like a big thing for people, is like seeing friends and family on holidays or celebrating it in a way that like
I really didn't think
meaningful
about
and
that.
impactful to them.